Welcome, everybody. Welcome along to episode 7 of He Said, She Said. That's right. We have formalised the name. We've formalised the title.
Yay!
And some people have complained it gets a little bit confusing with and hard to find on YouTube. That could be true. We've got a pretty bold and bright icon. You can't really miss that. There does seem to be a few songs floating around out there at the moment that have that title as well, which I was unaware of. I'll plead ignorance. But nonetheless, we thought that was a appropriate name to settle on, considering that this is exactly what we're doing. Anna's got an opinion. I've got an opinion. And speaking of Anna's opinion, here's Anna.
Hello. This is number 7. It's a lucky number.
It's a lucky number of
Life, future, God. It's mentioned in the Bible many times.
the perfect number.
Perfect number, yes.
Perfect number 7. Okay, I'll go with you on that one. So being the perfect number, 7 being the perfect episode, that's exactly what this will be, right? No.
Correct, yes.
We'll
yes,
work on it.
hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully too. But what we thought we'd talk about this week is, what does it mean to be happy? What does it mean to be truly happy? Why is being happy good? What do we mean by happy? How do we maintain happiness? All those kind of deep and perplexing questions. And we're going to try and get to the bottom of it in the brief time that we're together. What do you think it means to be happy, Anna?
It means a different thing for a lot of different people. So, for example, for a little child, having a puppy could be happiness. For an adult, getting the right job could be happiness. For a young girl that loves her boyfriend, that could mean happiness for her. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think there's levels of happiness. There's layers, maybe not levels, layers of happiness. What I think when we're younger, perhaps more innocent, surface things we think are going to make us happy. When we're really young, you might be at the shops with your parents or an elder sibling, and you want an ice cream. That does make you happy. It makes you happy for a little while. But as we get older and we grow up, it seems that we're constantly searching for what it is that's going to bring us contentment and happiness. And maybe I've just given it away there a little bit to some degree. Is it an aspect of contentment with our lives that's what's going to make us truly happy, Hannah?
I think definitely struggling is not happiness. So I think moments of time of contentment does bring happiness. The more you struggle, the less happy you are.
Struggle with life or struggle with...
Struggle with economic instability. Certain countries will have war, famine. There's all sorts of things that bring countries unhappiness. We can't say, all of the people in one country are unhappy because there's always the ones that are going to be a little bit more, I would say, not that money brings you happiness, but it could actually buy happiness, because some countries, we're always going to have the people that are well off and the people that are not. And the people that are well off would be able to go anywhere in case they need to flee. They can always pay a helicopter.
True. So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is money gives you opportunity to escape things that possibly are barriers to happiness. And I suppose in a lot of ways what we're talking about is necessities, really, right, at the moment. Food, shelter,
all the
safety.
Necessities, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but if we look a little bit past that and we say, especially in the West, we have, in most cases, not all, but we in most cases have a politically stable environment. We have, in most cases, a roof over our heads. There are people, unfortunately, who don't always have that. And we do have typically, again, I'm saying most people have something to eat or have access to food, at least food and water. So why is there seemingly, when the West has a lot of these issues not completely resolved, but mostly resolved for most people, why is it there seems to be a lot of dissatisfaction with people's personal lives? Why do you think people are continuously striving to find the next thing that's going to make them happy? What is it you think? What's the motivation you think that are striving people to continuously look for it, looking for something that's going to make them happy?
I think many people would like to have a purpose in life, and they strive to find it, to find what it is.
Find their purpose? Is that what?
Yeah, find the purpose.
Why do you think that's a problem with this? I mean,
sometimes I have a lot of I would say for most of the West, as you say, they have a lot of economic stability, or used to have until recently, and they seem to be happy in the eyes of the East. But what that brought a lot of money as well is unhappiness in many, many ways, because when you don't struggle for the basic things in life, when everything is served on a silver tray, you lose the meaning of life, the purpose of life. You start to make questions like, where am I going? Is this it? I have a car, I have a house, I have a wife, I've got the dog, but you still feel empty.
Do you think we're wired to strive for fulfillment? And I underline strive. Do you think we're wired to strive for fulfillment and purpose, or do you think we can actually reach a point where we feel fulfilled, we feel like we've served our purpose? And I don't mean when you're 85 years old. I mean, as a younger person, do you think that's normal or natural for us to feel fulfilled and like we're reaching our purpose at that point? Like what are the criteria that make us acknowledge that we're fulfilling our purpose in life as a younger person? Have you ever thought about that?
I think if we strive to connect with our higher being, sooner or later in life, you will find that money is not the limit or the end of the journey. I believe that when you get to fulfill that economic stability, that's when the purpose will hit you. And I think that's probably why a lot of young people we can see now that I'm going back to the roots, to find friendships, to be kind to one another. We lost control because we had so much of the materialistic things, too much.
Like in the 80s, greed is good.
80s, 90s, 2000s, really. We had a lot of economic
successes.
Yes. And we gave that to our children. And therefore, if you don't have to struggle to find the things that are basic needs for most of the people in the world, because we're talking about the West, then I think you lose your way in life. And I know I said that money can actually provide you with happiness, which is very, very true. Many people can probably disagree with me, and you can do it. I accept that. But I think that if you have a little bit more money to not think about how I'm going to feed the children today, you don't have to worry about that, then you can possibly concentrate different other things. But the problem is that we have concentrated too much in money and achieving all these social scales to have more money than the next door neighbor, that we have lost track of who we are. and where we're going.
I mean, there's a definite high when you acquire things. Like there's the initial high of I might feel like I'm deviating a little off the topic here, but if you go and buy a new car, the car's going to be amazing. You're going to feel good. You're going to enjoy that car. You're going to feel it's amazing. The problem is when we acquire things is that it doesn't give us longevity of purpose. 6 months, 12 months, you still might look at your car and go, my new car's amazing. I love it. I'm really happy with it. But it doesn't actually, if we're truly honest with ourselves, what it's not doing, it's not fulfilling a purpose in our lives. It's not filling, it's giving us enjoyment. I think people confuse enjoyment with purpose and long-term happiness. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy all sorts of things. Some of them require money to do and some of them don't. I mean, you're fond of bringing up the Hemsworths. I love going down surfing.
Yeah.
And I also love photography and music. I have a lot to do with. And in each of those things that I enjoy, unfortunately, you can spend money to do aspects of them. And if I acquire something, yes, it does bring me joy and happiness, but that's not permanent. So I suppose what I'm trying to dig down here is I'm trying to find what is it that empirically can be proven or shown that what it is that for people is going to make them happy in the long term. Because unfortunately, I see a lot of people that are frustrated and not content with their lives. And I think you can see people like we've just had Hurricane Helene go through North Carolina and another Hurricane Milton's just in the last week has slammed through Florida. And you see the good and bad of people, and there's people there that as long as I've got my family, we can rebuild everything. It doesn't matter if everything's taken from me as long as I've my family. So what that tells me is, and I agree with that sentiment, by the way, but what that tells me is that those people absolutely understand what the priorities in their lives are. If they lose their family, if they lose the people that they love, they're going to lose something massively joyful and that it gives them focus in their lives and gives them fulfillment. I don't think if you ask those same people, I know your truck got swept away, how are you going to get past this? Most people are going to, you know what, it's gone. I haven't lost the people I love, and as long as they're safe, I'm happy.
So having strong and supportive connections with others, maybe that's one of the main reasons to be happy, I guess, especially in times of trouble. If you feel that you belong to a group of people that care for each other, like we've seen in many, many places that are going through floods and hurricanes and all of these natural disasters, we see that these people get together, they join forces, and that gives them a purpose.
A sense of community?
Yes, and it gives them a sense of purpose.
So isn't that wonderful when you look at that? Because you see all these people from different walks of life, and when devastation happens to a community, in Australia we see the same thing. We've had, the mud army here when we've had massive floods in Brisbane. You've got fires, you've got you've got people with money, people without money. They all pull together and they work together side by side for community and for humanity. It's like everyone rises above the petty things of life to really pull together. And that gives, you talk to them, we're tired, we're exhausted, we wish we had more help. But they feel a sense of pride in what's happened.
And gratitude.
And gratitude, that's right.
Because you start to appreciate the small things in life.
Yes.
The good things.
Do you think that's what we need? We need more adversity in our life to appreciate the everyday things?
Not necessarily, no. I don't believe that you need to suffer more to appreciate the things that are good.
But there's a difference between adversity and suffering. I'm not advocating suffering for anybody. We all suffer enough in different ways. But I suppose I am talking about adversity. And what I mean by adversity is perhaps...
Yeah, explain.
Well, maybe my definition of adversity is a little different to some people, but I think that look at people in the 20s, 30s, 40s, the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there was an element of suffering there. And, during times of war, there's definite times of suffering. What I call about adversity is maybe little setbacks in life. They don't completely decimate your life, but what they do is they add an added challenges. Another word for perhaps...
They make you stronger?
They make you stronger.
Okay.
They're the things that actually...
That's maybe that they test you as a human being. The resilience that you have, the ability to bounce back from all these setbacks and challenges, I suppose that probably gives you a sense of happiness.
How do you think that's translating into happiness? I understand why it's good for us, but why do you think it's actually...
It gives you a sense of achievement. And who doesn't like to achieve goals in life? And if through suffering, I would say, or setbacks,
Yes.
you get together with your community who perhaps during the good times you didn't talk to, like your neighbors. You, most of the time, I've seen in the countries that I've been, very well off, very wealthy people. They don't talk. They don't know who the neighbor is.
No, they lock
they never
themselves
talk to
away
each other.
in their castles. And
Exactly. But when there's, adversity, they all pull together as humans, and that's what we are. We meant to help one another. But I think a lot of economic well-being that has driven us to forget who we are as humans has actually separated us from each other. And does bring in unhappiness, because I was reading the other day some of the countries that have all the economic steps into place in a country are the people, the citizens are some of the unhappiest people in the world.
Example?
Well, I believe it was Japan, one of them. And they are absolutely a perfect country. That's a country where they actually guarantee you that you're going to be safe as a woman. There are many people that I know that have been to Japan where the children can actually go by themselves to school, get into a train, I don't know, all these forms of transport.
I believe also the people in Okinawa are some of the longest living people on the face of the planet. I believe. So isn't that interesting?
Yes. And also, for example, so you have that extreme of wealth in one country, and then you have the opposite, which is Latin America.
Right.
And now you can probably say that I'm wrong, but many, many times countries in Latin America have come to the top of being, through studies, polls, statistically, the countries that are the happiest, although they're struggling financially, and war and poverty that comes with it, they tend to be the happiest nations. Why is that?
So if we looked at, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we looked at, say, Venezuela at the moment, do you think the people of Venezuela are happy?
Not specifically Venezuela. I would say Costa Rica.
Sure.
Is one of the happiest nations in Latin America, often attributed to strong social connections. So I think that in Latin America, strong connections, like I said.
You mean
not
like
forgetting who your neighbor is.
Family or community?
In general,
right.
They have a very strong family ties. Mm-hmm. So Latin America, the celebrations that you do as a family, as a community, that brings the spirit of belonging to a place. For example, personally talking about Colombia, around Christmas, and it's happening even to these days. And when my mom and grandma were little, they will get together and every family would do exactly the same. And that's the tradition. And I think having tradition gives you a sense of purpose, because you, as a mother, you will follow the same traditions that you had as a child because you felt safe. You feel safe following certain traditions. True. You liked, and as a child, you don't like the things that are unexpected. You like to have routines. That's what creates stability, not just psychologically, but emotional stability. That brings you certain happiness. I think I had the happiest childhood because I knew what was going on in my surroundings. I knew that my cousins, my uncles were going to be at certain times during the year and we would celebrate things.
I agree. I've got a, as you're saying that, I've got a mental picture of, having Christmas at my grandmother's house. We always used to, grandmother and grandfather's house as a kid. I remember my grandmother used to make the same or very similar things every year. And you're right. It's that familiarity and comfort. I think your grandparents, they're the only ones to provide that to us in some respect.
Do you think that you lost that in Australia? I think in the West, perhaps.
I think it definitely is generational in the way that's played out. I think, and I don't want to sound like a grumpy old man, but I think technology has definitely had an effect on how we communicate with people. I remember you wanted to talk to someone, you literally had to go to their house or you had to use the phone. We always had a phone, but, if you didn't want to use the phone at home for whatever reason, you had to borrow 20 cents and, or I think it was 10 cents, and maybe it was 20 cents, and go to a phone box and dial their number, ask to speak to their mum. Or their mum probably answered the phone. If you were, you might get to speak to your friend. And I think with everyone having access to internet and a smartphone these days, that there's a lot of independence. People aren't quite so they don't feel the necessity of coming together as a group. That has an effect on our relationships. To me, it's very hard to build a strong community when everyone feels they can just point at their handset and chat. That helps. I'm not going to say it has no benefit, but there's something about sitting down in front of someone, looking them in the eye and asking them how they are, as opposed to, just typing it in and they go fine.
Yes, I agree.
There is really something about sitting down and meeting people, and I think, getting back to what
energy.
It is that makes it happy. Yeah, there's something about being physically in the same presence as another human being. Definitely. That lifts you. It's not just the audible signals we're hearing. It's the physical signs that you read in their face, the way they interact, the way they stand, the way they look at you or not.
This is what. Sorry, can I interrupt there?
I would never stop you interrupting.
Like the children these days, they have lost that connection.
Yes.
Because of the iPads and the phones.
Yes.
And I think that they don't know how to connect, because this is exactly what's happening. If you are with a person face to face, like you said, the interaction is so much deeper because you are exchanging energies.
Ooh, this is a can of worms. But do you think that on a scale of 0 to 10 of happiness, 10 being super happy, do you think that makes them a little fragile?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
100%.
Yeah.
They are disconnected, disassociated.
So when someone says something to you, or they're perhaps less, let's say, less practiced at actually speaking with people face to face, or interacting with people, or different types of people. Like, anybody can get along with someone that they know, but they don't necessarily know how to react or deal with someone that they don't know so well, or perhaps they don't 100% get along with. I hate to say it, but I see that even in my work. We employ some young people from time to time, and you might get 1 in 4 or 5 that's social and has the ability to actually be taught or be
look at you in the eye.
Look you in the eye, follow instructions clearly. I'm sure that's always been the case a little bit, but it just seems to be the odds are getting
harder.
You know, you might get, you know, maybe 3 out of 5, you know, maybe 2 out of 5. You know, literally, I could say 1 out of 5. You know, they might have some of it together, but not all of it together. But
I think that makes them unhappy as well, because we do have more depression these days in young children, which it never happened before.
No.
When they were kicking a ball at the park and they were climbing trees and playing with the dog
And bumping into
by
one
the
another
river,
and
kissing the girl next door, you know, when they were like 6, 7, you know, playing boyfriend and girlfriend, all of these things
I never had that.
they don't do these things anymore. People are too anxious, and we create in this society by overprotecting them, not allowing them to play. Yes, you can say that maybe I could be one of those parents.
No, I doubt it.
I think that we, with all this fear porno that's out there, we don't allow the children to play on the streets anymore because we are afraid that they're going to be kidnapped and taken away. Do you think
which is a valid fear in some parts of the world?
Exactly. Do you think that brings happiness to a mother to hear that you can't let your child that's a little bit hyperactive jump in from one sofa to the next sofa and down the stairs, instead of just saying, like, you know, like we used to say, well, I used to be allowed to play on the street. That actually brings anxiety, not happiness. So I think all this internet is actually taking us back to where we came, or we were meant to be as human beings.
Taking us away from that.
Away.
Yeah. You have zero disagreement from me on that, Pat.
Great.
But, you know,
I'm glad to hear that, Sean.
It's unusual, but it's true.
We agree on one thing.
We agree on many things. You touched on something very, very true before. You said we've got more depression and anxiety than we've ever had before. That is true. Like, what I think some of that comes down to, people have forgotten what it means to feel fulfilled and therefore happy and content with their lives. And I think perhaps one of those aspects, especially for men, is to have meaningful work or a job or an activity that brings them satisfaction and fulfillment. Like, I think that is very, very important for a man. And perhaps I'm not going to sling off at any careers here, but I have a lot of friends who are lawyers, and I think during the 80s and 90s, there was a big push for people to study law. And I'm not saying it's not a valid career, and I'm not saying it's not a valid occupation, but a lot of them confide in me and say how much they hate the law, or they hate being a lawyer. Let's put it that way. Not the law so much, but they hate being a lawyer. You know, they would rather do something else, or they're burnt out. They work a lot of hours, deal with difficult issues, and it seems to take a toll. Men, women, it's probably split pretty evenly between the two. I mean, what is it about some of these occupations and what people deem to find? I suppose what I'm trying to say, and I'm not saying it very well, is why are people not finding fulfillment in doing their work? Like, I had a landscaping company for a long time. Now, that was completely out of left field for me as to why I wanted to go and do that. And I don't do it anymore. But one of the things that I loved about it was the fact that it was a very simple thing that I did, but I got to do it with my hands, and I got to do it well.
And fresh air.
And fresh air, and I was out in the sunshine.
Yep.
And it just, every day, I could go home at the end of the day. The problem didn't carry over in most cases. I felt like I started something, I succeeded, and I finished it. And people paid me for that work. I think that in a lot of cases, this is not something that we do. I mean, it's certainly not always something that I get to do in my current job. I mean, there's sometimes problems carry over. There's ongoing issues. And maybe it's those simple things, like as a farmer. I mean, obviously I know they have bigger issues and things they've got to deal with. I mean, my father had a small farm when we were young too. And there's something very earthy and organic, well, definitely organic, about doing something with your hands, like builders, carpenters, even any of the trades, and farmers. landscapers.
They're very happy. I think the ones I know, they seem to be like...
There's a lot of contentment in there. There's not too many people that I know that are working in trades that are they might feel tired, they might feel a level physically, but it's not generally they don't feel like they're accomplishing something. They don't feel like they don't have a purpose in their life when they turn up to do their job. There's a certain pride in their work that they do. There's a certain pride in accomplishing, a repair if you're a mechanic, or if you're laid turf and did an exceptionally good job as a landscaper. Or
you think it's because it's visual? They start with something, they plan it, and then they see the end product, and that makes you happy because that's achievement. Like I said, achievement always brings you happiness.
I think it can. Yes.
Yeah.
I think there is something. I mean, I've also been involved in sales a lot. Sales is a very interesting thing. Like mentally, you have to be a certain type of person to, I think, do really well in it. I mean, it does depend on what you're selling. But there's often pushbacks. You need to be quite resilient. You need to be a good listener. You need to be able to, I won't use the word manipulative, but you need to be able to have an understanding of the journey of a buyer. And I was quite good at it, but I wouldn't say that I had that experience of satisfaction in my job every day. You maybe once a month when the commissions were handed out, you did. You go, okay, I've done well this month. But you always go back to zero, and then there's that feeling of, anxiety and stress that you're starting back from zero again on day one the next month. Whereas I don't think as a landscaper I felt like that. It was like every day you get up, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to knock it out of the park. End of the day, job well done. We may have to go back and do a couple of things, but there was a different feeling. And I wonder if we're breeding or we're deliberately as a society giving more value to things that are, less meaningful. Yes. I mean, everyone, look, I'm not going to speak so much for Australia, but if there's societies there's countries that seem to, there's a little bit of a joke that everyone coming out of India is going to be a engineer or doctor. And if you want to do something other than that, you're, why is that? Why do people?
Well,
why those professions? Is it just the material reward, or is it that people are actually going to find fulfillment in what they do there? Because I think, look, in some cases it is, but I don't think for everybody that's necessarily where they're going to find fulfillment in their life.
Can I just say that according to a study, and I'm just going to read here.
Sure.
It says that the highest rates, the countries with the highest suicide rates currently in 2024 are Lesotho in Southern Africa.
Really?
Yeah. And all the nations that you mentioned, Korea there, is actually South Korea. They have really high rates of suicide because the primary factors contributing to high suicide rates in these countries, Guyana is another one.
Where?
Guyana.
Oh, Guyana, yeah.
Contributing to high suicide rates may vary by region, but in South Korea, for instance, the societal. Yeah, okay, you have to. Societal pressures, academic stress. Academic stress is
that very real in Korea.
Because you were just mentioning India and how I know I had friends from India, and you have aspirations.
Yes.
Inverted commas, aspirations that their children are going to be better off than the parents. So they're kind of pushing the children to be doctors, to be lawyers, to be dentists, because they know that they set them off for life. So they're kind of putting a lot of pressure, like in South Korea. This is isolation of the elderly as well is cited in South Korea. Just saying about the India thing and the academic stress.
Does it say what country has the lowest suicide rates?
No. I know who the happiest country, according to the 24...
Is it Denmark?
It's Finland, actually.
Finland.
You're quite close, leading the rankings for the 7th consecutive year.
Yep.
And then we have all the Nordic countries, with Denmark 2nd, Iceland 3rd, and Sweden 4th. Do you want to know why?
I'd be interested to know why they think they are.
Well, it says...
Who's the publisher of that study?
Artificial intelligence.
You're funny.
Yep. And it says here because of they share similar cultural and social traits such as high life satisfaction, robust welfare systems, and balanced work-life approach. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of these Nordic countries reduced the working time to 4 days.
Yes.
Only, not 5 days a week.
I think you're right. I was watching something on YouTube back a week or two ago, and they were talking about, now was it Finland? Maybe this is what... It was one of the Nordic countries. And yes, they were talking about both men and women, how much time they have off of it for maternity, and also the fact that they were looking to reduce...
school time.
Yep, school time and work time. I think they do work 4 days. I think it's got something to do with how many hours they work a day. Like they've basically structured it, but also they've had legislation passed which limits what they can be contacted for outside work hours. So you're not chained to your email in your personal time, which I think is a very good thing. But look, just getting back to...
It's Iceland.
Iceland, really?
Yeah. But they only have 350,000 people living in it.
That's a lot of people, though.
Sweden is the other one with 4 days work week. So, yep.
Okay.
Well, no wonder they're happy.
Yes, I'd be happy. Oh, look, we had a long weekend this last weekend.
And everybody was smiling on Tuesday.
They were flying. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So I think meaningful work does play a massive part in long-term satisfaction. I think the flip side to that is, unfortunately, in some cases, people are making career decisions, lifelong work decisions based on expectations of others, and rather than what they think, what is actually going to bring them enjoyment and fulfillment. And unfortunately, once you're a few years into your career and you get into it and you realize it's not giving you what you need, that dissatisfaction comes in. But that's a complex issue, especially in a lot of developing countries. You know, people are challenged to try and bring their country and their people out of, and their families out of poverty. So sometimes they're going to aim to do some of these jobs that are a bit more, let's say, financially rewarded than some other jobs. Unless you live in Australia, in which case you've got some tradesmen earning as much as high-end professionals here. Not all, some. But I understand why a lot of people want to be rewarded for the work they do rewarded well, let's say. And some of these jobs do pay very well. But there's been some interesting studies over the years talking about how much money do people think they need to actually make them happy. And it's interesting. I've forgotten the name of who actually sponsored the study. It was one of the universities in the States. The gentleman whose name was on this study that I found was Nicholas Buttrick and Shikiro Oishi, I believe. And essentially what that study found was that the question was, can money buy you happiness? And look, these are US dollars, but at the time this study was done, I'm just trying to find, I think it was in 2023, they were saying somewhere around $70,000, $80,000, that would be US. Most people live contented lives at that level of money. And then as it ramped up to 100,000 people, that felt like a good amount of money. This is in 2023.
Is this in Biden's time or before Biden?
I'm going to remain politically neutral for the sake of our audience.
I just asked a question.
I know. Very good question. We'll get back to that at some point. But what I will say is that what the study found is that over $100,000 up to $120,000, nobody particularly was more happier earning more money. And there was actually a trailing off over $120,000. It actually started to decline again, which I found very interesting. So there's probably a $20,000 window of where people go from being content and happy and feeling like they can accomplish what they want to in life, and either what they're being asked for and what they're being paid seems to not be worth it, or there's a drop-off in fulfillment in the kind of careers that are paying. Maybe
that's strange.
It is strange, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's not a lot of money. There's not a big difference between those two amounts.
No.
It's not a lot. So if I say that too much money can actually corrupt you and make you really unhappy, and too little money as well can make you the unhappiest person.
Could. I mean, I don't think the study said these people were thoroughly miserable, but just said, no. Hey, look, if I was earning $160,000 a year US,
I'll be happy.
Well, according to the study, apparently you wouldn't. They'd be as happy as if you were earning 100,000 US.
I think I'll be happy. Okay, so do you think, Sean, that having a faith, a belief, or a religion would play a role in happiness for people in general around the world?
I do. I mean, I've made no secret of the fact on this podcast I'm a Christian. And,
me too.
And I think that definitely gives us a purpose. I'm not going to speak for... I'm going to separate faith from religion.
Correct, yes.
Because I think sometimes religion could just be processes, traditions, practices that bring a level of familiarity and comfort to people.
Which is important.
Yes, I'm not going to...
like Catholic.
Yes, I'm not going to dismiss it outright.
Yeah.
But faith, to me, is a practical application of belief. So you either... I believe that we are all designed by a creator, by God. I believe that he knows what's best for us. He knows what will make us ultimately happy. I believe that we're designed to worship him. And I believe that we're designed to put our trust in him.
In Latin America, this is not like we have the belief in the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit through what the Spanish brought to us. But we turn that into a whole celebration because Latin American people, they just find anything to celebrate and be happy. So the whole Christmas turns from the first... Yes, but no, just drink from the 1st of December until the 6th of January is like a non-stop getting together with grandma, sense of community. You invite the neighbors to celebrate Christmas. You share with the poor. You invite the poor to come to your house and you share a meal. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And Sean is telling me to cut this, but I think it's important.
No.
It's important for me to say that it does bring happiness, the sense of community, that you belong to a place where you care for each other, that you can ask for all these ties that we have lost in the West, where you don't know what the next door neighbor is or what he does, because they're grumpy and they look at you like, don't talk to me. I think
not my neighbors, they're wonderful.
I think in most of the Latin American, I'm not going to say all of them, but in most of the Latin American countries, that religion, which is a Catholic, brings us together, especially Christmas time and Easter, because we have big gatherings.
Yes, you do. Yes, yeah.
And it gives us a sense of purpose. I've obviously moved from being a Catholic to become a Christian.
Yeah,
that's different.
That to me is the key word there, a sense of purpose. Look, that's where my faith in Jesus Christ is a sense of purpose. It's like why I do what I do, what ultimately motivates everything that I do is that sense of purpose. It's not just the reward at the end, the heaven that is something that is our reward, but it's our sense of purpose, why we're here, what is it we're trying to achieve, what frames every decision that we make on a daily basis. And for me, it's that sense of purpose that ultimately it gives us a life of fulfillment. I think everyone is looking for a sense of purpose. That's why the question that's so often asked online is, why am I here? What's the point of life? Yeah. And even you hear Jordan Peterson or some academics argue that question or talk about that question. It's very vague. It's usually very, very general. They'll start breaking it down into small things like, having a sense of purpose, a sense of community, a lot of the things that we've touched on today. But
sharing moral values.
Yeah, moral values.
That makes you happy when you find somebody that share the same values that you have.
Again, a sense of community. You generally you share those values in that sense of community. I mean, if you said, people from Colombia, Colombia is a very broad cultural melting pot. If we said, if you took some little town in outback Australia that might have 70 people, say, there's going to be a lot of shared cultural values within those people. If you took someone from Pitt Street in Sydney and plonked them out there, there's going to be some...
They will love it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They will love aspects of it. And you know what? The people from that little fictitious town out in the middle of Central Australia, they will love them, probably. But they haven't grown up together in the same... They haven't, through blood, sweat and tears, had that same bonded and had that same shared purpose. I think that's something we're losing with more online. I think it's very easy to deviate off those bonds and deviate away from those bonds that we have with one another.
So do you agree that happiness is not the same for everybody? You can't describe it, but it is a journey, and it's a different journey for everybody, not a destination.
I think that's a perfect summary, Anna. I do believe that happiness is a journey. I think it's the things that we encounter and the things that change and develop us and frame our way of thinking and how we interact with our family and community. And that journey, life's journey, is what gives us ultimate fulfillment and happiness along the way. And
with a little bit of money.
A little bit of money and a whole lot of God.
Yes.
And I think that's...
Saying that?
About us for this week.
Yes.
And...
Interesting topic.
It is an interesting topic, and thank you.
Please write the comments what you think, what you would like us to talk about in future podcasts. We reading your comments. We appreciate them very much. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment.
at this early stage of the podcast, we'd love you to subscribe. That would be fantastic. Like, share. And until next week, Anna.
Yes, Sean.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye for now. Bye.